Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism back with another live video for you. Going to be definitely going through the recent IFLScience article, 7 proofs of flat Earth as per flat earthers. Basically a garbage article meant to keep you from looking into it for yourself. So we're going to be covering that. Sorry I'm late. I just had a unique experience, something I've never got to see before, and actually had no idea I was going to be seeing it. I just saw that SpaceX was going to be launching from down south at the Vandenberg Air Force Base down there. It's about 250 miles from me. So I did not expect to see anything, but went out there with my camera and filmed it. Sure enough, got to see the rocket take off. It was pretty magnificent if you talk about the colors in the sky and the big plume and all that stuff that you see on TV. Pretty crazy. At the same time, I was watching it inside the house on the SpaceX channel, and of course the launch and landing looked like a joke. So I'm going to be looking at my footage that I just filmed and kind of comparing it to the footage from SpaceX. Basically, it looked like it got up there, hung up in the sky for quite a while, and then appeared to be heading down towards the horizon before it disappeared. So nothing out of the ordinary there, but I would say whatever they launched looked pretty magnificent from 250 miles away. So that much I can tell you. It also looked like it got up to about a height of, I don't know, I'm going to take a guess here. By the time I saw it hit its peak, according to, and I'll actually bring this up for you so you can see with me what's going on here. And this was the SAOCOM 1A mission, which I was just looking at. And supposedly they were going to launch at 7:21. And so, yeah, everything looked to be on the up and up. Other than when you watch their footage and you see the landing and the views that you get from far away, and then they just show you that one camera view looking down, as always. So anyway, look for a video I'll do comparing my video with the one that I saw online. But as I said, it probably got up to maybe, my guess would be 20 miles. It could have been 25. I don't know. That's just based on the time I saw it leveled out with the height that the TV said that the rocket was. So I'd say it leveled out around 20 miles high. It's about 100,000 feet. That would make sense to me. From 100,000 feet, I do think that you'd be able to see 250 miles. So that is why I was able to see it from where I'm at. Technically, if you were on said rocket that launched to 100,000 feet, you would be able to see me, and that therefore I can see you. Whereas a 35,000-foot plane above LAX obviously cannot see 250 miles, therefore you cannot see me and I cannot see you. That's my assessment as far as that goes. So let's move on to the order of today, which is going to be also, yeah, I saw this, that there was locals supposed to hear a sonic boom. I did not hear any kind of sonic boom on its landing. As you can see, this is what I saw. I saw it get up here, seemed to level off, kind of hang out there for a while, and then started to come on down. You're the next contestant on We're Faking Space. So it's fun. But anyway, look for a video on that coming soon. Thank you to everyone who's joining me. Appreciate that. Everyone in the chat, thank you for joining me. Everyone all around the world, wherever you might be it upside down or right side up or perpendicular. Whereas I think we know the truth that you're simply over there, across there. You can call it out there, but certainly not down there. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. So we're going to be going over this article because I just thought it was a laughing stock. 7 things that prove the Earth is flat according to flat earthers. Whenever you see something like that, you're always like, oh, okay, well, obviously these people know my thoughts and my reasons for believing the flat Earth, so let's hear them out. So I'm going to read through the article first, then we'll go point by point with each one and laugh at them hysterically. So that's the plan. So 7 things to prove Earth is flat according to flat earthers. Let's read the beginning. Why, oh why, would anyone believe that the Earth is flat? For one reason or another, the Flat Earth movement has witnessed a meteoric rise in popularity over the recent years, or at least a meteoric rise in publicity. After wading through blog posts and hours of mind-numbing YouTube videos, we thought we would help you understand some of the arguments that a small number of Earthlings use to justify their belief in a flat Earth and why they are desperately wrong. Please tell me I've been waiting for 3.5 years to hear why I am desperately wrong and how easy it is to disprove flat Earth and the globe. It's true, it's science, and everything else. Let's see. So number 1, the horizon is not curved. Number 2, nobody has crossed Antarctica. Number 3, that the Earth is stationary. Number 4, all space images are photoshopped. Number 5, my senses tell me so. Number 6 is Venus and Mercury at night. And number 7 is sun rays. That's where the article ends. It does have a few comments, a few smart comments. I had the same question in regards to the article. I'll read that and then we'll go over those. But let's continue reading, starting with number 1. The horizon is not curved. So, the spirit level never lies. According to some, prominent flat earther and rapper B.O.B. regularly cites the horizon's flatness as his main piece of evidence to plant doubt into the minds of the spherical planet Sheeple. In a since-deleted tweet, he showed a photograph of himself on a hill overlooking a built-up area with caption, "The cities in the background are approximately 16 miles apart. Where's the curve? Please explain this." He's even got a song called Flatline about the issue. Get it? Flatline horizon. This idea seems to forget that the Earth has an average diameter of 7,918 miles. In other words, it's very, very big. Imagine an ant sitting on a bumpy, moss-covered ball that's 1,000 meters in diameter. It wouldn't be able to make out many curves. Just take a look at the images in the gallery below. The other thing it wouldn't be able to make out is boats going over the edge. Yeah, the little gnat or the little bug on top of this huge ball wouldn't notice that. So in one breath, when we're told, oh, well, the Earth is so big, that's why you can't see any curvature, and then you get pictures, jokes like Soundly's video, then you start to realize that you're just being lied to, plain and simple. Either the Earth is so big that we can't see any curvature, or it's so small that we get banana curve, like Soundly shows from Lake Pontchartrain. Total joke, total fabrication, 100%, no doubt about it. Let's continue about that one. So it says to look in this gallery below. It's showing this basketball. I guess they zoomed in and said this is the curve that you should see from, I think that they think it's the distance of, let's read it here. In theory, you should be able to discern a slight curve in the horizon from an airplane at over 35,000 feet. Well, I don't know if you've ever watched liars like Sean Hufford and others who will tell you you can see the curvature of the Earth from the ground or from their little drones that are 1,000 feet high. But you can believe that, or you can believe what Neil deGrasse tells you that you've got to be 60 or 80,000 feet. It's up to you. You know, you want to believe others, you want to go out and do things yourself and look for the truth yourself. As I discussed last week, much easier to believe a lie than it is to believe the truth. So which one you believe is clearly up to you. Let's continue. So we said you might be able to see a slight curve in the horizon from an airplane at 35,000 feet. I'll just stop here real quick again. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Voice of Reason videos, or as I call them, Voice of Treason. But in his videos, he even points out, obviously, that to see a curve of the Earth would be impossible. That if you can see a curvature in front of you of the horizon, then as you start to turn to your right or left, how is that circle going to complete? So it's not what people think. There is no curvature that you would be able to see of the horizon. Of course, we don't live on a ball, and that's part of the reason for that. The horizon is very flat, and it's simply the end of what you can see. Simply, you're looking to see too far. You've got too much atmosphere in the way. So let's continue. Although you'd need a fairly wide field of view, as in not a tiny airplane window. So notice that to all those out there saying, I've seen the curve from an airplane window. Oh, you have? It says in theory, you should be able to discern a slight curve in the horizon from an airplane at 35,000 feet, although you'd need a fairly wide field of view, as in not a tiny airplane window. So tell me who is up at 35,000 feet looking through a sky glass window at a corner suite at the Ramada. Doubt it. Let's continue. It says, however, there are other ways to clearly detect the curvature without the aid of NASA, ESA, or any governmental space agency. Oh, really? Please do tell. Physics students from the University of Leicester in the UK captured some awesome images of the Earth's stratosphere and curvature simply using a high-altitude balloon. If you remember back, I will put it at the end of this video so you can click on it after you hear me rant and rave about it. I did a video already on this, and we just need to look at this one image and we just need to see the string right in front of you there, and you can see that this is a curved camera. This is a fisheye lens. This is a wide angle view. And if you don't believe me, you can head over to the video itself. You can see Science Bang is the one who put it up there. And you can see that they even make sure they point it out here in the description of the video. This was filmed in wide angle, so there is some lens effects going on in this video. If these comments would load, you would see that there's a huge discussion on this video about whether or not they made any claim as to seeing the curvature of the Earth, and the person that launched the balloon, the person in charge of the department, said absolutely not. They've never made that claim. That is the media taking off with that idea, but they are smart enough to realize that they're using a lens that shows the curvature of the Earth. How do we know? Well, let's just play this video for a second. And also, there's a curvature of the Earth at about 50 feet, in case anybody didn't know that. Huge curvature of the Earth if you go up to about 100 feet. So thank you, Loathe Science, for really giving me some reasons to believe in the spherical Earth, because clearly right here, there's a clear curve in this horizon. We're barely, 100 feet? Let's go up a little bit higher and see if the curve is the same. Yep, well, it's a little more drastic here, 200 feet. So, as you can see, nobody in this video, nobody who made the video, nobody who was part of this balloon launch, nobody who was involved in the department, ever made any claim to seeing any curvature of the Earth, because they're not stupid. And they're the ones who put the GoPro camera on the balloon, so they would not make any such nonsense claim. But you know who will? I effing love science. Excuse me. I effing love science. Or as I call it, I effing loathe science. And if you ask me why, well, this is the reason, because nobody's doing science. People are just making claims and putting them in the media, because that's all you have to do today to get people to believe things. Put in the media and the whole world believes it. Tell everybody they live on a big giant ball spinning through outer space at crazy speeds and nobody feels it. Why don't we feel it? Oh, well, you just have to get in an airplane. And anyway, we'll get to that. But if you want to watch my video, it'll be at the end of this one. I already did a video pointing out all the problems with this, straightening out the camera shot, and showing what it should truly look like, not what it looks like to people who are just dying to live on a ball. They need to live on a ball so bad. They need to be flying through endless space, and you better not tell them that it's anything different, or they might get mad at you. And you can see as we come back down here, getting closer to the ground, I think we can get even a curvature here at the last second, possibly. Psh, there we go. So this is about 2 seconds from hitting the ground, as you see here. Dink. So right before we hit the ground, we had a significant curve, right to left. So I don't know how in one sentence you can say that we are so small that we can't see a curve. In the next sentence, you're telling me about some balloon launch where you can see the curvature of the Earth, yet I can see the curvature of the Earth from 5 feet high. Does anybody see the problem here? I thought I'm so small I can't see the curve. Well, then you should be smart enough to recognize that the video that you're watching as a fisheye lens, therefore, is proof of zero. Nothing. Nilch. But I guess not everybody gets it. So let's move on to the next one, as that one's been thoroughly smashed. Let's see here. Oh, we already read this. Just a bunch of nonsense in here. And let's go back here. Here we go. So, number 2. All right. Yeah, simply using a high-altitude weather balloon and a fisheye lens. They forgot to add that. Somebody add that to the end of this article, please. Nobody has ever crossed the wall of Antarctica ever. Number 1, nice straw man. Nice throwing in there the wall of Antarctica, something that no flat earther believes there's a wall of Antarctica. But again, IFLScience, thank you for building straw men that you can build up and knock down. Must be fun. Let's see here. Some factions of flat earthers claim that Antarctica is a giant icy wall designed to keep us from falling off our disc-shaped world. Find me one flat earther that says that there is a giant icy wall that is meant or designed to keep us from falling off our disc-shaped world. Tell me who believes that? Nobody. Zero. So that's what IFLScience does. They just basically build up straw men, knock them down, and then celebrate all the way to the bank. Or knowing what these sneaky NWO governments are like. What is that supposed to mean? Is that just like the NWO doesn't exist? That there's not a new world order that's been talked about for going on 40 years, 50 years? I mean, what are you saying? I don't get it. You just prove your stupidity to me. But to prevent us from finding out the hard truth that we don't live on a globe, to back up this theory, they claim that no one has ever crossed the whole continent. However, people have crossed Antarctica many, many times. There's even a southern pole of inaccessibility. What does that mean? Which is the furthest inland part of Antarctica. So what does that mean? Although its exact location is always up for debate. Okay, so great. What did you put that in the article for? Here you'll find a Radio Shack, a tiny abandoned Soviet research lab, and a bust of Vladimir Lenin. Great. That said, it is still an incredibly hard feat to cross Antarctica unaided. Excuse me, 1 second. Experienced explorer and ex-Army officer Henry Worsley tragically died in the first weeks of 2016 during his attempt at the Antarctic crossing. For those who don't remember when that happened, way back in 2016, there were calls made to the hospital that he supposedly died in, and everybody there refused to say a word. So believe what you want, believe what you're told, or go look into it yourself, and you'll find out you're being lied to. So let's go on. Oh, well, nobody has crossed the wall of Antarctica. So if you go and look, you'll find out that one of the people who supposedly did do such activity is Ranulph Fiennes, or Sir Ranulph Twinkletoes. No, that's not right. Sir Ranulph Twissyton Wickleham Fiennes, 3rd Baronet OBE, commonly known as Ranulph Ran Fiennes, whatever. British explorer and holder of several endurance records. He's also cousin of the Queen. He's also, whatever they call him over there. What is it? Royalty or some bullshit? I don't know. Whatever those people believe. So it talks more about him here. His early life and education. It says that he was the first to go to the North and South Pole, which he did in like 1980. According to the Guinness Book of World Records in 1984, he was the world's greatest living explorer. I believe they still say that about him. You can find him here. Nope, not there. Here, the 3rd Baronet OBE. I don't know what that means. Better known as Ralph Fiennes, British expedition leader, holder of several endurance records. He also crossed, supposedly, with Charles Burton, the North and South Poles, taking from 1979 to 1982 to do so. And let me tell you something else about Sir Ranulph Fiennes, the greatest explorer known to man, and also somebody who fakes TV accidents so that people think that their crazy trips are crazy dangerous. Yes, the world's greatest living explorer faked for TV different falls in his recent expedition. Natalie Harrison was injured in staging falls engineered by the famous explorer. Sir Ranulph said he wanted to secure exciting footage for the cameraman. That's important when you're out, trekking for your life across Antarctica. We also need to secure exciting footage for the cameraman. So we fake accidents, pretend that we fall down crevasses, and these kind of things. But the 68-year-old was not willing to perform the stunts himself, the court told. Miss Harrison, 38, sued Holiday Company, who laid on the guides for the trip. She was left with long-term headaches and tissue damage in her neck. Now, I have heard people come to me and say, Jaron, you keep bringing up this Ranulph Fiennes in court. Don't you know that this lady lost her court case? Yeah, she lost her court case because if you decide to go on a trip with Sir Ranulph Fiennes and at dinner he says, hey, I think you should fake this accident, and then you say, okay, I'll do that, and then you fake the accident and get hurt, guess what? You lose in court because you knew what you were doing, you did it, you got hurt, it's your responsibility, and that's basically what the court found. Also, if you scroll down here a little bit, you will find an interesting quote from a lawyer. Let's see here. Patrick Lim, QC for Jagged Globe, and its owner Simon Lowe, said the company could not be held responsible for injuries Miss Harrison suffered while performing television stunts. He questioned why Sir Ranulph did not give evidence, saying, if leadership involves responsibility, which it does, Mr. Lowe regrets that Sir Ranulph Fiennes was so absent a figure in regard to the trial. I say this openly. It was already admitted in court that he actually was the one who said to do these faking of accidents. So when you learn that and you realize that one of the very few people that have ever supposedly crossed Antarctica also fakes accidents for TV cameras, go look it up. There's TV cameras of him getting to the North Pole and sticking the flag into the ground, and him and his buddy Charles Burton are celebrating, and you have to ask yourself, who's holding the camera? Don't they also get credit for going to the North Pole? It's so crazy. That guy Henry Worsley is down there. He's supposedly unaided by himself going across Antarctica, yet you can look at his journal, and he's taking pictures of himself a half a mile away. Who set up the camera? Did you set up the camera and then go walk a half mile away, then take the picture, then come back and get your camera? Or was somebody with you? You weren't unaided. Give me a break. It's all nonsense. It's all crap. It's all staged. Let's go back to where we were. So, nobody has crossed the wall of Antarctica. Well, when several billion, tens of billion people have circumnavigated this Earth, east, west, or west-east. And when 2 or 3 people have done it north-south, and one of them is this guy, friend of the Queen, friend of Prince Charles, I mean, just a whole bunch of nonsense. If these are the people that you want to believe in and trust in, go right ahead. People who fake accidents for cameras when they're supposed to be on expeditions are just people I don't trust, period. That's it. It's that simple. So let's continue on here. The pole of inaccessibility does not prove anything. Oh, because there's a pole in the ground that says it's the pole of inaccessibility, that means people have crossed Antarctica. Sure does. As I've showed many times, and I'll go to it again, all you need to do is look up the name ZQ Pilot. The letter Z, the letter Q, and P-I-L-O-T, Pilot. You will find a ZQ Pilot post on Facebook. You'll hear some images for it. This guy here supposedly broke the record for circumnavigation solo in a plane when he went on this trek, where he flew from North Carolina down to South America, flew down to Brazil, flew to 90 degrees, and then went back to where he started in Brazil, then flew up here by all these islands, then went to New Zealand, then from New Zealand up to Hawaii, over to LA, over to Alaska, then up to the North Pole and back. And they gave him the record for circumnavigation of the Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know what circumnavigation meant or means, then you understand that you cannot go to Brazil, fly to the 90-degree marker, turn around and say that the weather was bad, fly back. If you notice this white line over here, this white line is this projected what he said he was going to do. So he was going to fly around the Earth, go here, come out the other side over here, but instead he went back. That's why you see these 2 red lines here. This happened in real time. I was watching it on a site called Spider Tracks. And here's is that the better picture? Same picture? Anyway, check it out. Go to look at it. His name is Bill Harrison, ZQ Pilot. And you'll also see something very strange. I've contacted his wife. I've tried contacting him to get an interview, to get questions answered. And you'll just see that as of 2015, he made one final post. The real last leg complete. Bill and the 6ZQ can sleep at home at last. Da-da-da. They got home. They broke the record. But that's the last post. January 21st, 2015. Congrats to Bill. You can scroll further down and see people start questioning, why did he turn around? What happened? And then you'll find out that that's what everybody does, because there is no going past the 90-degree marker. You can't go to the other side of Antarctica. So you'll have to turn around and come back to the Earth. So I guess that's where they got the saying, come back to Earth. That's what they mean. But anyway, let's continue on. This is ZQ Pilot. Check it out, and you will see that we are being lied to. There's no reason in the world you would ever give this man the world record for the quickest solo circumnavigation when he didn't circumnavigate. Imagine that. But when they give awards to people like that, it should start becoming obvious what's going on. That's, again, if you care for the truth. If you don't, then it's much easier to believe the lie that he went around the world in a bunch of hours, and there you go. Congratulations. Way to go, Bill. Let's continue on with this. Let's see here. The Earth is stationary. Now, this is, I don't even understand this. Right now, the world is spinning at around 1,000 miles per hour, and if that's so, why aren't we flying around? I don't even know who says that. Why aren't we flying around? Whatever. Well, think about flying in a passenger plane at 575 miles per hour. Aside from takeoff and landing, when there is a change in speed, you feel remarkably still. Okay, if that is the case, you might want to also remember that the plane has walls and windows and ceilings and floors. So you see how that works? So when you're traveling in a vehicle and the air inside the vehicle moves along with you, that makes sense. We can all understand that. Okay, makes plenty of sense. Then you take the Earth and you're supposed to believe that the atmosphere moves along with the spinning Earth. That's what you're really supposed to believe, which is just nonsense, because where are the ceilings and the walls and the sides? There isn't. So what's going on? How is that working? How does it work in one case, and how are we supposed to believe this? But let's continue on. Well, think about it. Flying in a passenger plane at 575 miles per hour, aside from takeoff and landing, you feel remarkably still. You can walk around the cabin, pour a drink, and or go for a pee without too much trouble. So here's what I test anybody to do. Get on a plane, but saw off the top half. Okay, so you just have the seats, and then you basically have a convertible airplane. Go 575 miles per hour, and then have somebody get up and walk around the cabin, pouring a drink, maybe go for a pee. Tell me if you have the same results, because that's how the Earth would work if the Earth is an open system Well, sorry, if the Earth is an open system like they say it is. If it's a closed system, then we have to talk about that. That's another conversation. Too bad the globe believers don't believe that. They believe we're in an open system where rockets can go to space and shuttles can go to space. But they still want you to believe that you can be flying around on it at 1,000 miles per hour. You can fly from Alaska, where you're only spinning 400 miles per hour, and get off a plane at Ecuador, where you're going 1,040 miles per hour, and feel fine. Just get off the plane like everybody else. Just walk around like, hey, lived in Alaska my entire life, where I've been spinning 400 miles per hour. Today I flew a plane to where I'm spinning 1,040 miles per hour, and I don't even notice. I don't notice at all. You can believe that if you want, or you can believe the truth. Up to you. So let's see where we're at here. Earth's rotation is constant, even though it varies depending on what latitude you're located at. Earth's rotation is constant, even though it varies depending on what latitude you're at. Right. So if you fly from somewhere way north to somewhere near the equator, you just increased your speed more than twofold, yet you don't feel that. Makes a lot of sense. The atmosphere of Earth also plays a role in helping our space voyaging capsule. Then again, if the world were suddenly to stop spinning for some cosmically inexplicable reason. That's just a funny line if anybody reads into that. The truth would be if the Earth were to ever start spinning for some cosmically inexplicable reason. Like, how is the Earth moving? What do you mean it's spinning? It's jackasses. Then we would certainly be able to feel its movement. How about all space images are photoshopped? The most obvious proof that the world is not flat is to simply look at an image of Earth from space. In most realms of reality, photographic evidence is fairly inadmissible. This is something I couldn't understand, and if you scroll down here to the comments, you'll see the first comment is also somebody who can read sentences and understands that doesn't make any sense. To the author, what you wrote, in most realms of reality, photographic evidence is fairly inadmissible. Not sure that's what he meant. We could take it either way. I'm not really sure which way you want to take it. But let's say that they are inadmissible, which I guess that they are. They can be doctored. However, faced with this evidence, a surprising number of people argue, well, who says it's not doctored? Right? Okay. If that's the case, NASA presumably spends all of its multi-billion-dollar budget on thousands of illustrators and graphic designers. And the sad thing is, it does. So this is a funny-ass article by I freaking Loathe Science. If you ever think that some of the awesome images taken from space look a little off, well, that's because they're not always true color photographs. Often they are composite images or images taken using fancy imaging techniques. That isn't to say they are fake. However, they are images composed using real data, often with color added to illustrate, enhance, or highlight certain features. Let me explain a composite image. So I can go outside and I can take a picture of the left side of my block, and then I can turn to the right and take a picture of the right side of my block, and I can combine them, and I can call that a composite image. Absolutely. And if somebody said, that's fake, Jaron, that's a composite image, I would say, well, no, it's a composite of the two images put together. Okay? That's a composite image. Now, the problem with that is that I could then take a picture on the left of my block, but tomorrow take a picture of the right side of my block with a person standing in it that wasn't there the day before. And I could put those pictures together, say it's just a composite image, and then people would come and say, no, Jaron, that image is fake because it's a composite. And I'd say, no, it's just two images put together. It's real. Problem is, I just described to you how it isn't real. So that's the problem with composite images. So somebody can take a high-altitude plane, fly above the Earth, take a bunch of images of the ground below, combine them into a composite, and map that onto a sphere, and 8 billion people believe it. Ta-da! Isn't it awesome? Not very difficult. Probably low-level intelligence for people who have half smarts. They could do it easily. So let's see. And they do have illustrators and graphic designers. That is all over their website. Go ahead and go look for jobs with NASA and see if you can get a job if you're an illustrator or graphic designer. I guarantee you can. If you ever think some of the awesome... Oh, we read that part. Just take a look at the NASA image, better known as the Blue Marble. This incredible true color image was taken on December 7th, 1972, using a 70-millimeter Hasselblad camera at a distance of about 18,000 miles from Earth. Sure it was. Yep, whatever you say. 18,000 miles away, and this is the image that they took. Some versions of this photo are simple true color photographs. Nevertheless, many renditions of this image are cross-stitched mosaics made out of many satellite images. Hold on a second. Many renditions of this image are cross-stitched mosaics made out of many satellite images. Then I hope you understand that it could be true of this image. What the hell's the difference? Oh, man. Speaking about this process for the Blue Marble image, NASA data visualizer and designer Robert Simone explains the hard part was creating a flat map of the Earth's surface with 4 months of satellite data. My part was integrating the surface, clouds, oceans to match people's expectations of how the Earth looks from space. Here's the problem with that. You forgot, Loathe Science. You forgot to put in the quote of the year, or maybe the quote of the, I don't know, that year, whatever year he said that. But one of the funny things he said was, it is photoshopped because it has to be. So when we scroll up here and we see all images, space images are photoshopped, and then we've got somebody who works for NASA with a quote that you've left out on purpose, where he says, but it is photoshopped because it has to be. So do you see when somebody says all images are photoshopped because somebody at NASA says all images of the Earth are photoshopped because they have to be, then that makes sense, but obviously not to you, so let's move on. My senses tell me so. This one I thought was pretty funny. It says sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The Zetetic method is a fundamental cornerstone of the flat earther mindset, period. Answer to that, so true. Absolutely the truest statement on this article. You're right. The Zetetic method is a fundamental cornerstone of the flat earther mindset. Let's continue. In contrast to the usual scientific method, this belief system says that your senses rule supreme. Oh, is that what the Zetetic method says? Let's continue. All knowledge about reality should be reached directly through your own personal observation, as opposed to building upon someone else's observations, building a theory, then testing whether it's true or false. As per the Zetetic method, our personal experience on Earth tells us that it feels flat and looks flat, ergo it is flat. That's not really what the Zetetic method shows or says. Actually, let's talk about the Zetetic method. The Zetetic method is still a method of doing science, but get this, it has one big difference. In the Zetetic method, one uses observation and experimentation to reach conclusions. What? Yeah, you heard me right. In the Zetetic method, which is still a method of doing science, the one big difference in the Zetetic method is that we use observation and experimentation to reach conclusions, rather than the scientific method, which requires an initial theory that is either proven or disproven. So a scientist following the Zetetic method basically gathers questions and then sets out to do or create experiments that will answer that question, rather than speculating or theorizing on what the answer might be before testing it. So many of us flat earthers understand, and we get that, and we realize that it's a better method than used today in the quote-unquote scientific method. Why do you ask? Well, because it removes preconceived notions and biases that the early formation of the theory or the hypothesis might cause. So the Zetetic method leaves the conclusion entirely to what is observed by the observer. Heaven forbid. You mean we don't base everything off what Einstein said 100 years ago? Nope, we just base it off what we can observe and what we can test and what we can experiment. Not the ideas and thoughts of people in 1600 that said, well, you can shoot a cannon off the Earth, and if you shoot it too far, it goes out into space. Too short, it hits the Earth, but just right, and it goes round and round forever. You know, we can theorize about those things, but that's not the Zetetic method. The Zetetic method says go out and test it. But again, this guy wants to clown on the Zetetic method like there's a problem with it. You mean you're observing things and testing things, experimenting things, and then making conclusions? You crazy fool. Well, that's because you've been fooled. If you assume you live on a sphere, then, well, guess what? All the terms that you use and the phrases and the places like the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere, well, then will it surprise you when your models can account for weather patterns and you can map them onto a sphere? Because that's all you'll ever get when you presuppose that you live on a ball. So that's the problem with these theories and these basing everything off of these foundational facts that must be true. They have to be true because these guys need them to be true in their worldview. Let's see here. You can go to... Oops, sorry. Is that where we ended there? Of course, it doesn't take much to prove that your senses can't always be trusted. Just take a look at an optical illusion. Okay, time out. This one bothers me more than anything. When you've set your senses up to be deceived with an optical illusion, that's not your senses failing you. That's actually your senses working quite well. I've told people this many times. I forgot what the thing is where you can say ba, 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 and the guy mouths fa, 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 but you hear what he mouths, not what the sound is saying, and all these crazy things that your brain does, which is actually your senses working correctly. When your brain is telling you that the guy is saying fa, well, it's because you're seeing his mouth the words fa, which if you're doing that, it's impossible to say the words ba. So that's why your senses are working. They're telling you he must be saying fa because his mouth is saying fa, which is correct. It's impossible to say ba if you're saying fa. So this is your senses working correctly. And again, it doesn't mean your senses are failing you. It simply means that you've been fooled. I mean, if you went out to cross the street and you looked both ways and there's no cars coming, you don't hear any cars, you step out and get smashed by a truck, that's your senses failing you because you're like, what? I looked both ways. There was no sound. There was no car. I stepped out in the street and got hit. Well, that doesn't happen because our senses save our lives every day, throughout every year. And yet people like Loathe Science think it's good to smash on our senses because somebody can create an optical illusion where if you look at these 3 dots, then the middle dot turns green. Fantastic. Thank you for that optical illusion. It's really cool. And if I cover my right eye and I plug my nose and pinch my pinky toe, I can kind of see a triangle looks like a square. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, you can see Venus and Mercury at night. Check out John, the Morgiles videos. He's done a great job at showing this one. But I think their little graphic shows it pretty well myself. YouTube conspiracy theorist D. Marble, the guy who took a spirit level onto a plane to prove the horizon was flat. I don't think that's the reason he took the level on the plane, but anyway. Once posted a question, Dear globe suckers, if the Earth is a globe, how can planets between the Earth and the Sun be viewed at night? I'll wait. Presumably, he's asking how we can see Mercury and Venus at night because he's thinking they'd be placed between the sunlit side of the Earth and Earth. Well, you can't actually see Mercury and Venus in the dead of night anyway. Well, you actually can see, I saw Venus well after 11 o'clock at night. It's also very rare that you can see Mercury with your naked eye. Great. You can, however, occasionally see these 2 planets during the twilight hours around sunrise and sunset because they are not always directly between the sun and Earth. It's important to remember that the planets aren't perfectly lined up as you sometimes see in elementary school diagrams. Each planet is on a different orbital path at different speeds. So what does he give you? He gives you an elementary school diagram. The diagram below illustrates this relatively self-explanatory way. Okay, so this little circle here is the Earth. You can hopefully see my mouse. This is Mercury and this is Venus, or they're right in this area here. And yet from the night side of Earth, so see this line here? We're on the dark side of Earth and we're seeing planets that are over by the sun, even though we'd have to be looking through the ball Earth to see them. So it doesn't make any sense. But again, I don't expect people who are just looking at this to get it. It takes a little bit of research yourself. It takes not just believing everything that you hear on TV and everything you hear before the words or after the words scientists discovered. Because you go look that up, you'll find it every day. Oh, they discovered water on the moon. They discovered this planet. They discovered moons on other planets and other galaxies. And this galaxy proves this black hole and this nonsense. We could look at this one here. How about this video? General relativity confirmed near black hole. I don't know if you ever watched this thing. It is just nonsense. Let's see here. It's talking about this black hole. And
so powerful.
Oh, it's so powerful that it can accelerate things.
Stars,
dust, planets.
such a high speed.
Yeah, because there's a black hole in the middle of the galaxy, by the way, guys. I don't know if you knew that. It's never been observed, but it's there. It must be.
So the gravity of this black
So the gravity of the black hole is so strong that the star comes so close to it. Let's see some evidence of this. Oh, here we go. Oh, because it came close to the black hole. What about the other stars that are close to it? They don't get affected by it? Just this one? Oh, I see. It's called gravitational redshifting, in case you didn't know. It proves that the prediction Einstein made, and that just by escaping the gravity of the black hole, the light would lose some of its energy. And that was confirmed exactly to the degree that Einstein's theory of relativity predicted. Good stuff, I tell you. Let's see, let's continue on here. Sun rays. Some flat earthers argue that crepuscular rays, never going to get that, am I? Crepuscular rays. Hey, about that, I did get it. Prove that the sun isn't actually that distant. If the sun really was 93 million miles away, they argue, then the sun's beams should fall parallel onto Earth, not fan out at a jaunty angle. Unfortunately, the rays are indeed parallel. Yeah, if you didn't know, this ray here and this ray here, parallel. Just in case you didn't know that. This fanning out effect is just an illusion caused by your perspective. It's essentially the same effect that makes train tracks appear to converge as you look at them in the distance. That's probably their best 1 out of the 7, if they're saying that it doesn't make a lot of sense, because I would agree with you. I don't think a lot of people claim that only crepuscular rays are responsible for us believing that the sun is only 93 million, or not 93 million miles away. How about the fact that to believe that the sun is 1,000,000 times size of the Earth is ridiculous? And when you've got no proof of anything in the distance, the size, 896,000 miles wide, what a total, complete joke. So the problem with this whole thing, if you ask me, is that you would think that they could mention other reasons that people are flat earthers, like the fact that NASA has been lying about going to the moon for 50 years, the fact that they took more photos on the moon than is even possible. Even when you multiply it out by the amount of people on the moon, the amount of time they were on the moon, you take all the images, take in the time that they were on video that we know of, and they would have been taking photos at a rate of like 1 every 10 seconds the rest of the time they're on the moon. Completely and totally impossible. Or that water always finds its level. Or the fact that surveyors don't take perspective into account, even though we know 100% that things appear to get smaller with distance. Or that we can see Canagoo from 1,000 feet high when it's 175 miles away. I mean, we can either admit what we see, or we can trust men who tell us that we actually don't see the mountain chain, that you see the sun and the moon cause mountains to rise a few thousand feet, displaying themselves perfectly for you at the horizon line. Or they don't mention the Chicago skyline, where the globe calls for the buildings to be hidden completely. But we can look at the Skunk Bay footage, the time-lapse footage, and see how weather affects our views of distant shores and how atmospheric effects can account for everything that we see and everything that we can't. Or how they explain our observations without assuming the Earth is a giant ball in space, just like density and buoyancy can completely explain gravity. And the only thing they can't explain, of course, is how the Earth became a sphere. No, gravity, this unseen force, must exist because everything must pull to the center. It's required by the model that has been built on for hundreds of years. How about ignore asteroids and meteors, or who chooses which gravity? Einsteinian, where it's isn't a pull force but a push force because mass bends the fabric of space-time? Or is it Newtonian gravity? Which one are we actually looking at? Don't mention that NASA trains in a pool, as if this training was anything like space, with somebody swimming behind you carrying all your cords and handing you all your tools. Well, that doesn't happen in space. Why the hell would we practice like that? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. How about the idiotic design of the ISS, that no engineer would ever put every operating cable and control and cord and multiplexer, demultiplexer, all of it they put on the outside of the craft? It makes no sense. It's actually embarrassing to think that any engineer would come up with that design. The impossibility of it, or that it's maintained and cleaned by a 3-person crew. I mean, that is ridiculous. The amount of cleaning and dusting and everything else that would need to be done on that, and the seal protection, and it's just not there. If they get a leak because they're little O-rings, well, you got a leak, and then you do a spacewalk, I guess. Don't mention the $53 million a day. That might be a little bit too much for people to grasp. Like, what do you mean? Who gets $53 million a day? NASA does. What do they do with it? I don't know. Launch rockets about once a month into the sky, and they go pretty, and then they do a sonic boom from the sky, and people like Red's Rhetoric have an orgasm. Oh, that's the only thing I really noticed. Let's see. We don't mention that there's no cameras on the moon looking back at Earth, because if we can get to the moon so easily, we can put all these robots there, and we can put the LRO to go around and take pictures. We can do all that. What a godsend it would be to sit a camera on the moon, face the Earth. There would be no more questions about eclipses. We could show it in all the schools, but they don't have it. Wonder why. How about the fact that there's no 24/7 video feed of the Earth from the craft that's in orbit of the Earth? Nope. It's on the dark side sometimes, so we got to shut off the cameras. Otherwise, we'd have to beam them off satellites back to Earth. Whew, that'd be way too hard. Don't mention that there's boats over the horizon. Big mistake there, but that wasn't mentioned by IFLScience. Yeah, the fact that, hey, when boats go away, they disappear behind what looks like the horizon to your eye. Pull out your camera, zoom in, and there's the boat again. Yeah, imagine that. It didn't actually go over any curve, did it? They don't mention that. Yeah, leave out the idea of plane flights that make no sense on the globe, ones that travel from southern South America up north to, say, Frankfurt, and then down to Dubai or down to Johannesburg. Don't mention any of that. That might make people look into it. How about the lack of undersea cables from Australia or New Zealand to South America, or the lack of cruises between the same two places? They don't mention that at all. Don't mention the Earth.NullSchool site removed the AE map once people started to catch on to the fact that everything made sense on the AE map. They didn't mention that, did they? They didn't mention that the jet streams on a flat Earth make sense versus the supposed 300 mile per hour easterly jet stream in the south that is spinning 300 mile per hour faster than the Earth in the direction that the Earth spins. That's still a big one, and people can't grasp it. Take a basketball, spin it on your finger, and then realize if that was the Earth, that there has to be a wind going in the same direction as the Earth, 300 miles per hour faster than it. Does that make sense to anybody? Sure, shouldn't. How about the problem with the east-west on a globe, as I showed last week? Or trying to think of these off the top of my head. I don't know. Coriolis. We have a problem with Coriolis. It does not exist on a spinning planet with an attached spinning atmosphere. Wouldn't make any sense. Or that we have no evidence of a gas atmosphere without a container. Or no proof of a 93 million mile distant sun. Look at my video called Scaling Indifference, telling us that we can adjust the sizes and distances and the observation remains the same from Earth because it remains the same angular size. Or the idiots like Brian Cox, who actually said, and I quote, "Nobody in human history, as far as I know, has thought that the world was flat." Let me say that again. This is a quote from Brian Cox, cosmologist or physicist or theoretical jackass, whatever one he is, said, and I quote, "Nobody in human history, as far as I know, has thought that the world was flat." So I guess Brian Cox in his college education may have missed when they talked about the Babylonians. Did he miss when they talked about the Egyptians? Oh. How about names like, I know these are rare, you may have never heard of the Mayans. I don't know if you've heard of them. How about the Hebrews? How about the Incas? How about the Navajo? How about the Norse? How about the Hindu? Nobody in the history of human history has, as I know, has ever thought the world was flat. That is a jackass statement if there ever was one. But or they tell you that you can easily see the 240,000 mile distant moon, which is a joke in and of itself. Even though the inverse square law tells us that the light on the moon would be about at 1,000 miles from the moon, the light of the moon should be 65,000 times as bright as it is from Earth. Give me a break. It's impossible. Go watch the moon landing films and tell me those guys are standing on something that is 65,000 times as bright as we see it from Earth. No frickin' way. It's a lie. It's all a joke. So you can get into, there's so many more. They didn't bring up the Foucault pendulum, which of course is their proof of the Earth spinning when it wouldn't even possibly work if the atmosphere moved along with Earth. Think, people. Use your heads and think if there's an atmosphere sitting on a spinning Earth and the Earth is spinning and the atmosphere is moving with the Earth, then there is nothing that would be affected on the Foucault pendulum. Please use your head. Please don't just trust people who try and tell you that they know what they're talking about, because guess what? They don't. So I just wanted to go over that video real quick. I want to check out some of my SAO COM 1A mission footage that I just filmed of this rocket launch from SpaceX down at Vandenberg. Other than that, thank you all for joining me, trying to keep it quick and to the point. Get those out there just so you can realize that those 7 things are just meant to keep you from looking further into it, which is up to you. Again, you can believe the lie if you want. You can be done. You can say, I live on a ball spinning in space with endless planets and endless stars and the endless universe and endless galaxies. And you can believe all that. Go to bed. Have a good night. That's all you have to do to believe a lie. Or you might have to look into it a little bit. You might have to start digging to see that we've been lied to on a mass level. So I appreciate everybody so much for watching. Thank you so much. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/Jaronism. That'd be awesome. Join the crew over there. Appreciate all my patrons so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all that you do for me. Thank you a ton. Also, if you want to help me out in an easy and cheap way to support this channel, you can go to Jaron. Sorry, that's wrong. You can go to j.mp/JaronAMZ. All you have to do is type that in before you shop at Amazon, then do your normal shopping. You pay your regular price, and I get a percentage to help me make more videos. So if that's good for you, you can do that. If you hate me and rather I didn't make any videos, I've got a suggestion for you. Go to my channel name, click on it, go to About, click on it, and then block my channel. You'll never have to watch another one of my videos again. How happy are you? You live on a ball. Nobody's questioning it. You can continue in Fantasyland for as long as you want. And you can buddy up and be best buds with I frickin' Loathe Science, the coolest website ever for idiots, basically, who love science. And they love it so much because it means they can just be lazy asses and don't have to ever look into anything. Because science already knows. They've already proved it. Men, a long time ago. They did it. So, other than that, I appreciate you guys watching and remind you always to do your own research, because if you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Other than that, nothing else. We'll see you next time. This has been Jeranism, and until next time, peace.